Thank you very much. So what I thought we'd talk about is we do some quick introductions. I'm not going to bore everyone with who Phillips 66 is. I hope that comes out during the conversation. But just at a high level, we are only 3 years old. We split from ConocoPhillips on May 1st, 2012, and overnight became a Fortune 12 company with limited systems and limited processes. So we're going to actually share with you that journey as we went through. We're going to talk about our mission statement around our military recruiting, the foundation of our program. We actually have multiple partnerships. So this is not me here to talk about Orion. This is me to talk about what it takes to be a great military employer and a place to work. So we have a partnership with American Jobs for American Heroes. We're going to share with you some of the branding we've done with Orion in our partnership and some branding we've done on our own. And then we're going to talk about the evolution of our hiring, the mistakes we made, and yes, there's a number of mistakes we made. And Orion will quick to tell us and remind us of those mistakes. And we, as a client, we listened and we partnered well. We'll talk about our job fairs. We'll do a post-mortem and results to date. Listen, I'll sit and walk around. I like a lot of questions. Anything you can ask, I'm happy to help. I've got Tony Eckert over here as well. Tony's a recruiter for U.S. Refining who's helping us run this program right now. Tony has 8 years of experience and has worked at Accenture and Kforce. And then did a great job of talking about my background. I've found a home in oil and gas. I like it. I've been here 8-9 years, and I don't plan on moving on from that. So why do we do this? It's easy. First, you have your corporate mission statement. And when we split the company from ConocoPhillips, ConocoPhillips had this huge mission, vision, and value statement. It was almost like a book. And the company, our leaders went off even before we split, and they landed on 3 things: safety, honor, commitment. That's how our CEO signs his emails when he sends out to us. He'll say, in safety, honor, and commitment. So when you look at military hiring and you look at those words, safety, honor, commitment, we felt that we had a nice tie with the military. Now anyone in energy in this room? A couple folks? I mean, you understand the safety around what goes on in our fields and inside our refineries, inside the fence lines as we call it. The military is a strong tie to that. And then you look at, well, we're a large organization. We also have a responsibility back to our communities, and we're going to share that with you. But let's be honest. It's also about strategic workforce planning. Our folks in our refineries are getting older. The diversity in our refineries isn't the greatest. I'm sure we all face that in some of our organizations. When we looked at the military, and this is where Orion helped us a great deal, is they were able to pull statistics out of each MOS or MOC within each of the services and say, where are the welders? Where are female welders? Where are people of color within each service, and help us do some targeting campaigns. I recommend that highly. Not only from a diversity of people, but also diversity of thought. Because that's something that was lacking within our organizations. We were getting the same type of people over and over again. So we started out with a mission statement or a vision statement to begin with. And I've done 19 years of recruitment. It's easy to build a program, right? It's easy to go out to SHRM. It's easy to go out and benchmark someone and say, what do you need? You need to have recruiters. You need recruiters that can speak military. You need to have 5 jobs to hire, and then you move on. Well, let me tell you what we did. We did things a little differently. We got senior leader commitment, meaning the CEO. I went and presented to the CEO this program, and he was on board. Okay, what then happened is this program became topics of town halls in 2 consecutive years. You know, while it was 5 minutes, it still built that leadership. Then we had internal champions. We'll talk about that. But we had an executive vice president, Larry Ziemba, of all of our refining organization, which is a huge business in itself, was our champion. He was the one working with all the refineries saying, look, let's hire more military. Let's see let's pilot this. Let's see how we can do it. But what really was the string or the thought that went right through was our employee veterans group. And I was just talking over here at Phil, right? Phil's like, how do you get folks to translate what a candidate brings from the military to a hiring manager who's never served? There's a disconnect. our Employee Veterans Network provided that thread through the organization. So a hiring manager could pick up the phone and say, call the Veterans Network and say, hey, can you walk through this resume with me? We'll talk about how Orion did that as well, and that was huge for us. We've got a video on that. But that Employee Veteran Network was important. Also, when the candidate arrived, that was also a big deal. We were just talking the definition of teamwork. How many have served here? Thank you for your service. But the definition of teamwork in corporate and the definition of teamwork in the military is a little different, at least what we came across. And what I mean by that, and you're saying, Jonathan, you didn't serve, what do you mean? Well, teamwork in the military to me is 5 of you enter a building and 5 of you come out safely, right? Each of you have your job. Each of you has a mission, each of you has a task to make sure the other 4 come out safely on the other side. And I say that's teamwork, and that embodies teamwork. That embodies, what you're trying to do. Teamwork sometimes in a corporate setting is, here's a problem statement, the 5 of you figure it out and let us know in 2 hours what you came up with. That's 2 different definitions. I'm not saying one's right and one's not, but that Employee Veteran Network helped us. And then with Orion. Orion we brought in right before we split. We didn't know we were splitting, so you're going to see we had some trials and tribulations as we went through. They have been a great partner, and they've been a great partner, and I explained to you how they've gone above and beyond in some areas to help us with our veterans. And then we looked at a corporate philanthropy perspective. We partner with American Jobs for American Heroes. I'll talk about them. They rely mostly on the National Guard, and the National Guard has its own problem statements around unemployment. And so when we took all this, we look at military hiring as one thing, not just Orion, not just the Veterans Network, but it's all these components, all these pieces working together. So let's talk about American Jobs for American Heroes. This is retired Brigadier General Marianne Watson. She was the Chief Personnel Officer of the Guard. We partnered with a group called CASE, Center for America, and for this American Jobs for American Heroes. And this is, I'll be honest with you, so Orion, close your ears. This is against Orion's philosophy, right? Orion's a pay-for-service. This is a non-for-profit that you can post your jobs out there, and depending on where that job is, they can help you find that lower level onesie two kind of individual. It's a great program. The Guard had 40% unemployment coming off the recent deployments about 2-3 years ago, right? We capitalized this program though within our Orion program because our employees saw it as one. They saw that we're doing a lot for a group of individuals, not just are we favoring Orion, are we favoring American Jobs for American Heroes. I will tell you this is a free place to post. I got some cards, I'll show that for a second. But they're not going to help you if you're going to need 5 salespeople in a location. They're not going to be able to help you with 5 pipeliners. What they're going to help you with if you need it's geared towards small businesses, right? 3 or 4 people working at a pool company or a machine shop. That's where they're focused on. But I'll tell you what, we had General Watson, come in and talk on our Veterans Day program. She met with our senior leadership. This goes back to that slide I was just a couple minutes ago. She met with our employee resource groups. She met with our Director of Employee Relations and all of the recruiters to talk about the challenges that the Guard faces. The message is communication. If both sides aren't talking about what each side faces and how difficult it is, it all breaks down. Because what's the path of least resistance? Avoiding the problem statement, right? If you don't know how to read a resume, then you go on to the next candidate. If the candidate comes in and interviews and doesn't know how to interview well, you go on to the next candidate. And so what Marianne helped us with is see both sides of it. So this website actually will be launched in about a week. But what we've done is we've launched we have a dedicated veteran section within our website. Within that, we took an Orion candidate and we actually highlighted it, and we're going to ask Tony to click on this video, if you don't mind.
What attracted me to Phillips when I got out of the military was it was a name I was comfortable with and I was familiar with. And my military training and time did help me here at Phillips. One, it helped me be able to multitask and take on several things at once and be able to stay focused on all of them. And it also helped me because I was in fuels, so I was familiar with a lot of the terminology and a lot of the way you do business. After a couple years here at Phillips 66, what I've learned is that you could really get something done here if you worked as a close-knit team. You didn't need 100 people to do one job. You could really get something done as a team. What excites me about coming to work is I really learn something or see something new every day in 2 years that I've been here. I haven't had a repeat day of yesterday, and that to me is the best thing of all.
Why is that video important? It's not just it makes us feel good. What's important is we show that to all candidates that come in from a military background so they can see that there's jobs there for them. We also take that's in our Glenpool terminal in Oklahoma or Tulsa. We take that video and we share that video with hiring managers before they interview, and they're like, okay, I get it now. I see that there's connections. I see that this young man or this young woman can provide what I'm looking for, even though I can't understand what's being said on this resume. And that video has been out for about a year, and that's been really important to us. The next thing that we did, and this is going to change colors a little bit, is we partnered with Direct Employers, and that's a nonprofit that I belong to. And in the middle, as you can see, you can type in your MOS or MOC, and it'll map to specific jobs that we currently have open. So that's a military candidate can go in, and I apologize, I don't know the numbers, but they can go in and type in what they served and if they were a combat engineer or a medic or whatever. And what it'll do is it'll show all the open jobs within Phillips 66 that match that MOS, MOC. We took it a step further, our partnership with Orion. Orion came back and said, you're not hitting them all. And this is where the partnership really took off. They're like, Jonathan, you're not hitting them all. We type in, this MOS, and it's coming up with 3 jobs. Let us go behind the scenes, and they partnered with Direct Employers, and they were able to provide, they looked at every one of our jobs and went through every military classification and said, our clients are seeing these type of people go into these type of jobs. So this is even a more robust, and if you use this one, Orion's help behind the scenes is there. But what you can see is you can filter by military titles, by state, and by city. That's helping the candidate understand where they fit into an organization. And then, of course, our Orion branding. So Orion does a great job. They're one of the companies that are able to get out to folks, whether they're out on the ship or out on a base. They have this portal set up every time we have a career fair, and we're going to talk extensively about that. They post our positions. We have a safety video from our VP of HSC and our connections to Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, just to show that we're reaching out. I keep on coming back to it's just not one thing. It's not just sitting in a room doing some interviews. It's building that network, letting folks know that you're a friendly military provider. Any questions so far as I go through this? Yes, ma'am.
Does that last thing you showed, does it connect to your ATS?
It does.
Do you mind sharing which ATS y'all use?
Well, we're on Taleo right now, and come Monday, we're actually going to SuccessFactors.
Okay.
So yeah,
Will do it.
it'll do it. It's not Taleo or SuccessFactors that's doing this. This is Direct Employers Association.
And then it just somehow connects to what you
It takes the scrape, does a translation from the OLS codes or the government codes, but also some work with Orion that says these are the 15 or 20 positions that match. That's a big deal. And the feedback we got was, I look at a website, I'm a candidate. I look at a website, I don't know what jobs apply to me. I don't know which ones are meant for me, but when you can type in your number, your code, and see 5 jobs returned, at least that gives you some confidence to say, HEB is a place where I want to go. They understand that this skill set can do this job. It's not a solution, it's a tool. And I can go offline with you and help you out and show you. Great question. So the younger generation. So we do our Facebook. And so if you notice the top, it's Phillips 66 Careers. Jill Calzada happens to be my social media person, but she's also very active on the Veterans Network. And we post everything. This is about American Jobs for American Heroes. As you can see, we reached 546 people when this was posted. And it talks about our great place to work, hire vets. We're learning about this new generation. I don't know how embedded it is with the military. I don't know how much time you have to tweet while you're sitting on a ship, or if you can. But it's just putting it out there and building that. Our Veterans Network does its own posting. All right, so this was on the 7th anniversary. This was only a couple weeks ago. And then this is our career site, and this was a Veterans Day event, and there's Jill actually and her son who's actually going to be joining as soon as he graduates. He ships out. This is when we planted flags on a Veterans Day. Those are the stories that get out there. So it's multifaceted. People want to know that you're military friendly. I think right now, is anyone here from the railroads? Is it Santa Fe Railroad? I think it is. The one commercial. I mean, I think it's the best veterans commercial out there right now, where they say 10,000 people at work and they show the flag. I think that's Santa Fe Railroad. That means a lot. We're doing that internally. We just haven't, externally is what we're doing from a careers perspective. But let's talk about our partnership with Orion. And it's had its ups and downs. And I don't mean, was there issues? We had to learn from each other. We're all sitting in corporate positions or business unit positions, and we all say, we have the right answer. Orion would tell us, no, we've got some answers. Why don't you listen to us? And we'd say, no, we've got the right answer. So I'm going to walk you through that. And we're very humble and appreciative of how they kept on pushing. So if we go all the way back here, this is Conoco Phillips after the merger between Conoco and Phillips. 2006, I don't think I was even at the company yet until 2000, actually that time. And it was in different business units. So just imagine your own companies, whether it's Kroger in different regions, in different stores. Everyone was doing their own thing. They were doing one-off contracts with multiple search companies. You all know the competitors. And we weren't getting anywhere. And as you can see that our fees were $13,800 per. I would say it's more. Just to be honest with you, that number seems very light to me. Q3, we had this idea and we took it to our leadership. As I mentioned, we took it all the way up to the very top. We wanted to build this program and we wanted to hire folks en masse. Okay, we didn't know what that meant though, but we knew we needed a partner. The other thing we knew is we didn't need 5 partners, we needed 1. We did an RFP, we brought 3 or 4 firms in, and at the end of the day, you go with who you feel comfortable with, and you go with who it's also dollars, but you go with who you like. And we picked Orion. Now look at the time period, it's Q3. By the time we got our first event up and running, and we'll talk about that, we were able to hire 2 people. I'm not gonna lie to you, we thought that was a success. It was centrally managed, we had good 2 people, we built a relationship. But then we go into the next year and we split, so we had a distraction. Anyone gone through a split of a company before knows that is just, it's hard and it's easy at the same time, but it's a distraction. But the next year we thought we had it right, and we were doing what I call one-offs. We would have a refinery that would pick up the phone and say, we need 2 people, get us the best candidates, we'll interview them when we have time. That was a lot of work. And I'm going to tell you right now, please don't do that. All right, these events are great. These events are focused. We elected it, and I'll tell you what we did. We brought the events in-house. But that was tough, because why it was tough is there wasn't focus. You had some hiring managers go, why am I doing this? You had refining leadership saying, why do I want to be engaged? The only thing that was happening was those that had served before, that were in supervisory positions, were saying, I'll give this a shot. But you weren't getting everyone together. Now at the end of the year, with our distractions, we hired 16 people. I would say that was our crawl, that was our walk phase. And right now, just so everyone knows, we're focusing on refinery hiring only. And those crafts and maintenance, and no operators at this point, correct? Just crafts and maintenance at that point, so boilermakers, pipe fitters, welders. So then as you can see, something happened in 2013, and we're going to talk about that. And as a result, while that doesn't seem like a lot, 31 individuals actually represented 25% of all of our hourly hiring in those 2 classes were veterans. And about the same percentage in 2014.
Quick question, are those protected veterans or are this any military?
Any military. I would assume some of them fall into the protected class, absolutely. But it just wasn't someone that was just coming out or recently separated. It was veteran and what Orion brought to the table. Correct, Tony?
Correct.
I mean, age didn't matter. Disability status didn't matter.
By definition, if you're within 1 year of transition, you're a protected veteran.
Yeah.
So most of the
But-
candidates are doing quality.
But not here. That definition didn't exist, correct, at that point?
I'm not sure when they.
I don't believe it did. But our point is, we have folks that have been out doing another job for 5 years. The reach of Orion was they had the database that they could bring individuals in in that metropolitan area. Now listen, I'm not trying to tout Phillips' program, but I really want to show you how it all came together. So here's a slide, you can read it all, but we did a video of it. And I'd like Tony to show. This is our Bayway refinery. So before you get going, if anyone's seen The Sopranos before? Yeah. You know that one that says, "Have a nice day"? You know that tank farm is they're passing? That's us. That's our tank farm. And if you're anyone from the East, well, you know that's a very unique location from a union perspective to pull this off. Is that fair to say? Very. All right, so if you go to how it works.
Bayway piloted the first Phillips 66 maintenance hiring program last year, and it was very successful. We were able to hire 9 veterans that have served our country. These veterans are using their military experiences to now strongly contribute at Phillips 66 Bayway Refinery to help provide quality fuels for the Northeast of America. We are now again proud to pilot the first Phillips 66 operator hiring program, which is currently underway.
Phillips 66 Bayway Refinery piloted this program last year with our mechanical hiring class, and it was a very successful program. This is a great opportunity for Phillips 66 to partner with the heroes who have served our country well over the past few years.
We have a thorough screening process that they have to go through prior to getting hired. So in essence, we're getting the best of the best that come out. So it's a good program.
I was in the United States Marine Corps. I was an aviation technician.
I was in the United States Navy, and I was a fire control systems technician.
My job in the United States Army was a combat engineer and infantryman.
I was in the United States Air Force Reserve, and I was a crew chief for KC-10 aircraft.
I was in the U.S. Navy as an electrician.
The skills that I learned in the military prepared me for what I experienced coming in here.
I would say that with my military experience and training, I was able to utilize those skills and bring them to Phillips 66, and Phillips 66 was able to bring with their training program even more opportunities and capabilities.
I would say what I like most about working at Phillips 66 is the correlation between Phillips and the military environments. Like I said, they're both built on the same standards and morals, and I really like that.
You'll see safety groups out there and rescue teams that are composed of your fellow workers. So a lot of times you have your friends watching your back, which really transferred from my military experience well.
What I like about most working with Phillips 66 is working with the people. The people so far have been very kind and generous, and they seem to genuinely care about you, and they seem to really want you to succeed.
What I like most about working with Phillips 66 is the teamwork. The people I work with, they're good. You learn a lot from them.
Initially, the hiring process for me was very nerve-wracking. It had been 5 years since I had been on an interview process. But when I got here and saw how welcoming everybody at Bayway was, it really put my nerves at ease. Going through and doing the group exercises and the tests and the interview was a new experience to have it all done in one day, but it was definitely a good experience. And then getting that phone call saying that I was getting a position offered to me was one of the better days that I've had in a while.
I would say that my best experience with Phillips 66 so far has been the training program that I've gone through. It's very unique, highly technical, and robust.
Phillips 66 is a great company. I couldn't even be happier to work here for the Phillips 66.
In safety, honor, and commitment, we are proud to support this effort on behalf of Phillips 66.
So what we learned is we did these job fairs. We brought the candidates on site. And so Orion sourced for us. We gave them, Tony, what's our lead time? 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
6 weeks is usually the best practice. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's a little shorter, but 6 weeks is perfect.
And so instead of hiring for one position, we got the business units to hold back positions and hire for multiple positions. Now in our business, it's very easy with our strategic workforce planning. You have so many that are entering the workforce, and right now we have a lot exiting the workforce, so getting the number of positions free was not a problem statement for us. So we built the candidate pool, and it was pre-vetted. Right? So Ryan did the vetting. They talked to our hiring managers in advance, talked about what the skill sets were, what are you looking for, what's the culture like in the facility. But the next one, and we apologize here, is educating the hiring managers. Orion flew out to our locations and held, was it a half day or a day session? It's probably a day because it's depending how many shifts we had to go through, with each individual that was going through and going to be interviewing candidates. Right? It's one thing to hear the corporate person say, I'd like you to interview a couple folks. It's another thing to sit across from someone who served and says, let me tell you how this welder, what they do on a ship. And let me tell you what it takes to run an aircraft carrier and what they're doing. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. That translation was lost from the corporate recruiters that didn't have military background. I think we're there, right? So when I said we didn't listen, Orion had been telling us to do that from the very beginning, and we're like, nah, we don't need that. Our hiring managers know what they want. The minute we did that, we saw our numbers go up drastically. But then we held a day event, and so we had folks come in. So they start with their testing. They came in, I think it was an all day, started at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing they learned, and we had all of our hiring managers come in on a Saturday, which if you know, that's a big deal, especially when a refinery is running 24/7 and that's their time off. And we educated the candidates on what it's like for a refinery. And let me tell you, we gave the realistic job preview. What it's like to work in a union, the good, not the bad, but what the challenges are, how it's different. We talked about what we did from a corporate perspective and a site perspective. So not only did they have interviews, but they also did testing, because they have to do testing in our environment. Valterra, I don't know if you guys use them, or SHL, the same company, on aptitude and math aptitude and dexterity aptitude. They had to go through that. So they knew at the end of the day, or we knew at the end of the day, if they would be qualified. And then the next thing is, and any military firm will tell you this, you have to get your offers out quickly, especially with this environment, and we were guilty. We are guilty, by the way. I don't know if we figured it out, because you have to get the business units to understand. But with the new legislation right now of having X% needed within your locations, these military candidates are hot right now. And our hiring classes go 6 months at a time. Talk about a paradigm shift for us. To hire welders is 6 months. Why? Because in a normal situation, you've got to go through every step to make sure that you didn't do it improperly, so you don't get a grievance against you or an improper hiring against you. Which I left off a big important thing. We also went to the USW and said, this is what we're doing, what do you think? And I got to tell you, the support was overwhelming. And that was a big win for us. So what did we learn? It takes time. We had to do this 15 different times, right? We had 15 business units, 15 refineries. Anyone worked in a refinery before? It's its own city. It's its own fence line. They have, that. I think one of the toughest jobs in America is a refining manager, because they're responsible for the safety and everything that goes on there. But we did this 15 times, and sometimes we had job fairs that yielded one person, and sometimes, Tony, 8, 9, depending on the need. But I'm coming back to why did it work? It's because senior management involvement. We would let senior management know we're having a job fair in Bayway. And so the EVP would call up Dave Erfurt, not pressure him. Dave was the plant manager, and say, how did it go? Did you at least get 1 or 2 individuals? Right? We're not forcing military hires, but we're putting that out there. The thing that we also realize is the military bureaucracy. It's brutal. I don't know how something gets shipped from point A to point B, but it happens, and we're thankful for that, by the way. But even when someone is coming out of the military, you can't assume that this side of the room gets the same kind of transition services as this side of the room. So you have to go into it knowing that you have to educate every step of the way. So it's communication and education times 10. Because you just can't assume that everyone's off the same playing field. You have to try different things. We tried this one-off approach. Orion sat us down and said, let us try these military job fairs. Let's do mass hiring in locations. And we said, all right. And where we can't do location-based hiring, so we have pipelines and terminals, or pipelines, we'll just pick a terminal and we'll bring the candidates to that one location and bring all the hiring managers in from around the country to that one location. That's a paradigm shift within an organization, right? So I look at Kroger or H-E-B, you're asking one regional manager to go into another region's district to do interviews. Well, that takes time and that takes stakeholder engagement. We have multiple programs, we've learned from our mistakes, and we just keep on trying to put out that we're a great place to work. I tell you, the thread, like I said, is the Military Veterans Network. They're the ones that grabbed onto this, and they're the ones that said, well, how can we help? They're the ones that are pushing this out there. They're the ones that are saying, help us, we'll help you interview. We'll help you explain all these things. So results to date, 2 years in a row, 25% of our hourly hiring and refining was military. That's big. That's going to be in the 2015 annual report, and it was in our 2014. That's a big deal. And these are the military folks that we can track, by the way. Right? This is through our program. This isn't through the ones that all these other efforts are doing. This is just actually through Orion, to be honest with you. And then our next steps. We started where our business need was the most, which was our strategic workforce planning problem statement around diversity in our skilled trades. But now we want to look at junior military officers. And we think that's going to be an uphill battle for us, right? Because when you want a salesperson, you want them to have that experience to sell right away. You want a HR person, you want them to be doing recruiting that's different than military recruiting. You want a finance person, it's not government accounting. Sorry if I said that out loud. It's GAAP accounting, right? So we were having that buy-in. And the last thing I wanted to show you here is this gentleman right here was recognized, and this is Buzz Becker. Buzz Becker was our president of our veterans group, or chairman, whatever you want to call it, nominated his boss for the Patriot Award. And the Patriot Award is, being, military friendly. Buzz actually went to officers training candidate school while he's full time, and then he's on leave right now. Bob had no clue this was being happening. Folks from the Pentagon came in, or this group ESGR came in and recognized him. You put that up on your intranet page. Now, it's great that he did it. I'm not saying it's for PR, but this is the thread that helped us, right? This veterans group helped us with our military hiring. This is seen throughout the whole company. Now people are saying, how can I get my supervisor nominated? And that's a big deal. That helps the hiring. The other thing that you learned is each candidate has a unique perspective. And what we learned is making the candidates feel welcome on that first day. It's overwhelming. Some of these folks, they went right from high school into a conflict, re-upped for how many tours? I mean, some of you were in this room, had an interview. The last job they probably had was McDonald's, potentially when they were 16 years old. And so what we did is Orion came in, we talked about how to best acclimate these folks for the day, not overwhelm them. We can control that. You do one-off hiring, you can't control that hiring manager in the room because, hey, we can't control them anyway, the hiring managers, right, in a normal circumstance. But what we're trying to do is get them to see the bigger picture. And you have folks coming in on a Saturday, or if you're your organization on a Friday, that worked very well for us. And at the end of the day, they were excited during the candidate recaps. They were fighting over candidates. They were like, if so-and-so is not going to go in your organization, I know normally I don't take that individual, but he or she showed up so well, I'll take them. And I'll train them. And you heard that we have training internally. And so that's what we got, was we got that power of that, I don't want to call it propaganda, but we got that power of saying that it was important to the site, and it became the site's. I think that's what you saw. You hear the words, Frank Chikalski said, we piloted the first one, it's our program. Okay, sure, I'll give them that, right? I mean, it's a company program, but it wasn't Bayway's program. And since then, they've ran another one. Do you recall how many they hired? 9 on this one, maybe 5 or 7 on the second?
We had 13 on the second. We actually ran a third last year that I forgot about.
Okay.
And then we hired an extra 6 for that.
So you make it their program, and let me tell you, it works. Well, I'm keeping you from the bar, I think, so. Listen, I'm available for anything. We love, I'll have my card up here. Best practices, we're happy to talk to you. We feel it's very important to hire military folks. We'll do everything we can to support you through that and the networks that we have. We don't see it as a competition. We see it as is unity and doing the right thing. So thanks for your time. Sorry for the technical difficulties, and I hope you have a great conference.